from Nathan's view. Wow. Wow. Cat-like reflexes.
Oh goodness, Sebastian Coffre, another mistake for him, and he is a sitting duck down the front stretch here with the double draft here for Overbay and Ritters. Are they going to make it 3 wide? Ritters goes for it on Overbay, while Overbay goes for it on Coffre. Up the inside, coming into Doohan corner, and Coffre might have to yield here. He's already lost the place to Overbay. He's going to switch to the outside and try and widen the entry to keep Ritters behind him. Looks like he is going to do that. Late apex, and that will work out all right for Sebastian Coffre, but it's slim pickings at the moment for the number 28.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced SimRacing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
North America and Europe often steal the limelight when it comes to racing locations, but in recent years, another continent chock full of incredible venues has gotten its due. The land down under will certainly get the spotlight tonight as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the PRL GT Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. First up tonight is the scenic seaside circuit of Phillip Island. Let's head to our track guide to learn a little bit more about it. Welcome to Phillip Island. As the name implies, this track is located on a splotch of land off the south coast of Australia near Melbourne. While there's been plenty of racing here for close to a century, the track's current incarnation has only been around since the late 80s. And this version is a doozy. With only 12 turns spread across the roughly 4.5 kilometers, it's a decently fast circuit. But what really makes this place stand apart is the incredible variety in those few corners. From negative to positive camber, early apexes, late apexes, blind crest, hairpins, sweepers, if you name it, it's probably got it. On top of that, the front stretch tends to offer up a slipstream with its incredible length, but it then forces the drivers into a game of chicken by chucking them into the frightening doing. Corners like Lukey Heights stretches a car's grip to the limit and then shocks you with a sudden downhill braking into MG. Retaining something of an old-school twist, unlike most modern courses, Phillip Island has earthen embankments running along many parts of the track. While it's meant to keep the cars safely retained within the circuit's confines, anyone unfortunate enough to manage to jump them will be faced with a ton of damage for their troubles. A variety of types of racing take place at the track, including motorcycles, lower-level open-wheelers, and touring cars. Possibly the most well-known among those is the Australian Supercars Championship. With the Aussie reputation of having dangerous, difficult, and challenging circuits, Phillip Island certainly holds up to the standard. The beautiful views of the beach and the ocean may lure some of the fans in, but there's no doubt that the incredible racing at this unique track keeps them around. Well, DJ, I look forward to this because this is a track that has such a wide variety of corners, and for these MX-5s, they'll probably thrive on that.
Yeah, really, really does, Joe. Look for a couple of really fantastic overtaking opportunities going down through Dewan and into the Southern Loop. That's a very, very high-speed area. The Southern Loop in particular can catch people out if you're not careful, but if you're able to carry just the right amount of speed through there, you may see a little overtake get done through there. Coming out of there, though, running through Stoner, down into Honda, heavy braking, right-handed hairpin. That's going to be a big, big overtaking opportunity. From there, it's going to be a little bit of follow the leader up through Siberia and Hayshed over into Lukey Heights. We could see maybe an aggressive overtake or two going down into MG, but it is one of the trickiest corners at this track, a very sharp downhill that puts a lot of load on the front tires. Very, very easy to lock up those fronts there going into that corner. And from there, you really need to focus on getting a good exit out to be able to maximize speed down the Gardner Straight, because if you lose out there, you're going to be a sitting duck.
Yeah, it seems like the draft is playing a big part from what we could see in practice here today. Before we head off to the race in itself, we want to remind you that our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced SimRacing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
And finally, the PRL GT Series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
As we take a look at the championship situation, Bradley Holly is currently leading it now that he's finally got a win to his name here. As he has been leading it before, but this certainly extends it over Cervantes and Greenhoe. Kelly not able to attend last time out, but you can see Giancarlo Lenzi coming into the game as well, tied for 7th with Karakov, a first and a second in the last 2 rounds. He's quickly shooting up the order. We'll see how high he can climb as things progress. We also have a teams championship here in this series, DJ. How's that one?
Well, it's a little bit more spread out at the top, with hashtag not a team leading the way by about 71 points over Oh God right turns. Crikey no breaks, a fair ways back from them, but a close battle there starting to develop between the Hacks and the Road Warriors. Unlimited Slip about 26 points back from them, but they are in a very tight battle for 6 with TTT Gaming. Iceberg Racing not too far off of them. Same with Sweet 16 and 55 Motorsports. They've got a little bit of catching up to do, but still can crack further into the top 10.
Now, this series has, of course, a standard format, so if you've been watching, you're already familiar with this, but for anybody new, it's a 35-minute event here in this race, but it will involve a pit stop for fuel. They have an open setup in these cars, even though they're very simple, but you'll want to try and tweak them to especially be comfortable around this place with how many different types of corners you're going to have to tackle. Drive-through penalty occurs at 13 incidents, and disqualification at 17, and then there's the bonus points, including for the pole position, which they are fighting for right now. And Kevin Berquist right now holds that provisional pole over Giancarlo Lenzi, who is fast once again. But things remain tight behind him, even though it's about 0.3 of a second from first to second place. Ryan Kings, Bradley Holly, Odise Adams Jr., all very clumped together here, DJ. And that's all names that have been lightning quick in the races themselves. So if they all wind up front, this could be a fascinating race.
Yeah, it certainly could be. And the one name that I'm very interested to see up there is Ryan Kings. Last week, we talked a little bit about his qualifying woes. Now, he just hasn't been able to seem to get that one-lap pace together. Well, today, the 43 up there in third position. We know that race pace is strong. I'm going to be watching out for him during the course of the race if he's able to stay up that close.
Yeah, it's been such an up and down year for Ryan. He's had a win, but he's also had 2 DNFs. He's had a finish in the first round that only garnered him 9 points. So it just can't seem to get consistency in the races themselves either. We've got 4 minutes left here in the qualifying, a little less than 5 minutes really. And everybody except Simon Doyle has set a lap so far, as we see Kings now out on a proper lap, but he goes off through Dewan, and unfortunately that's going to delete this lap at least. He'll have enough time to get back around for a second one, but that takes away a good chance for him. Trying to see who's on a hot one right now, and looks like I think that's Lenzi, who is pulling a big toe from a lot of cars, but he might get held up here in this last bit.
Yeah, that looks like Cervantes up ahead of him there in the 25. Also, Bradley Holly, a couple of drivers pulling off to the side there, recognizing that good sportsmanship that we like to see out of the series. They're going to let GL on by, I think, both Holly and the 25. They're starting a flying lap right now. That is Cervantes. So both of them going to be working to get a good hot lap down. They were on an out lap last time out.
And they do actually have rules in place that you can't be hindered on a qualifying lap. So it's not as strict as, say, Formula One, but it is protestable if you feel like you're being held up by somebody in qualifying. And they encourage people to try and be cognizant of those situations. Watching to see who else is on a pretty decent one. Daniel Del Busto in the 86 is looking like he might improve. It's going to be pretty close, and he is coming towards the line right now. 47.2 last time by is going to be a 47.270, so 300ths off, just shy of his best lap.
Yeah, and he didn't really have too much of a pole there, so I'm not entirely surprised that he wasn't able to do it. Let's watch this, though. This is Odise Adams Jr. He was quick through the first sector, setting a personal best there. Is the 22 able to bump his way up a little bit? No, but his teammate there, Jose Gonzalez, able to bump up 2 positions up into 7th.
Looks like Malcolm Foster just went a little bit quicker, 47.2. That'll put him into 15th. And it is continuing to tumble down the race times. Kelly Greenhoe has not gotten a decent one in lately. He's still down in 19th, so maybe he's kind of taken the place of Ryan Kings here today, as he is, wow, even bumped down to 20th now. He is really going to have to find something, because this is highly unusual for Kelly.
Yeah, it really is, Joe. And, in the past, we've talked about this Phillip Island circuit. This is a really love it or hate it circuit. There's a lot of rhythm to it. And if you're able to kind of key into that rhythm, really feel out how the track is going to play, you really can get some good lap times. But if you're not keyed into that, it can really, really throw you off. The other thing that makes this track so difficult to drive is the heavy winds that come up. We are right by the ocean here. iRacing does a fantastic job of simulating just how strong those winds they can be. Yeah, coming in right now at about 11. I've seen up to 13 miles an hour here, and that can really buffet the car around a little bit if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's kind of out and exposed out in the open, and as you'd expect, next to the sea, it comes gusting in. So Kelly Greenhoe, who is working his way up into Lukey Heights, does not appear to be on a good lap. I'm showing about 2 seconds down on his current best. So the Road Warriors driver a little bit wide even down through MG. Looks like he might have to go around one more time, and he will only get one more time because we're down to 1 minute left.
Yeah, indeed we are. Looks like a couple of drivers here on their outlap. Odise Adams Jr., Jose Gonzalez trying to get that final one down as they break into MG. Keeping our eyes here, though, on Kelly Greenhoe. Let's see what this lap will be. Is it going to be an improvement? It is for Kelly. That's going to bump him all the way up into 10th.
Glad to see that my timing was lying to me, because that is a much needed improvement. Unfortunately, still in the mid-pack, but that'll at least be a lot fewer cars he'll need to overtake. I do believe, Ryan Kings was showing on a quick lap for me a bit ago, but suddenly that time has gone away slightly. Adams Jr. just started his final flyer. Who's going to be the first to get the checkered flag here? I think Christian Lisiak's going to just eke across the line in time. Yep, with about 5 seconds to go. And then behind them, it is going to be Bartlett Chase, who is 22nd of 22, who will finish things out. And he's not looking like he's on a quick one either.
No, not particularly quick. Ryan Kings did set a personal best through the second sector, so that may be something to watch for, but he just had an off. No, he did not have an off. Excuse me. That was Austin Bartlett Chase that had the off. So Kings still going around here. This may be a little bit close. Doesn't like it. He's going to call it a day.
Up next, it's Foster and Cabana, the two teammates trying to work together, and it's Cabana who has the tow this time around in the 774. He's about 0.8 of a second off the pole time. Foster is a full 1.6 seconds off the pole. He's down in 17th, so I almost feel like he's the one that really needs the tow on this lap. But let's watch each of them cross as they hit the timing line. Not an improvement for Foster, and Cabana doesn't get it either. And then behind them, Michael Chase has his lap deleted. Let's see. It looks like Adams Jr. will be next.
Yeah, and Odise here is going to be running by himself, not seeing any green sector time, so no personal bests. And indeed, he is going to come down pit lane. That leaves, I believe, Christian Lisiak, the last driver out on track.
So let's see if the 91 can go any quicker this time by as he flies out of the penultimate turn. He's holding the left-hand side, trying to shorten the run here around Swan Corner and up to the timing line. Let's see if that actually helps him out or not. He sits in 12th place, 200ths to make up to go by Jimmy Richards, and he doesn't go quicker, unfortunately. Sounds like our grid is set then here for today's race. Let's go through our starting order. Kevin Bergquist is on the pole with Giancarlo Lindsay in second place. Bradley Hawley, last round's winner, will start from third. Ryan Kings, great qualifying for him this time in fourth. Odise Adams Jr. will be P5. And then Mark Kalin, another one that has really turned up the wick here in Q as he's gotten sixth place. Jose Gonzalez, seventh. Ian Cabana, eighth. And then Guillaume Povin and Kelly Greenhoe are row 5.
It's going to be Jimmy Richards in 11th, followed by Christian Lisiak with Michael Chase and Andrew Venaro behind them. Row 8 will be Brett Carrico, followed by Christian Smith. Malcolm Foster and Simon Doyle will line up behind them with Daniel Del Busto and Jason Larson rounding out your top 20. Danny Cervantes and Austin Bartlett Chase rounding out your field.
Have a few onboards for us today as well. And first of those is the number 57, who, as we heard, is going to be starting from 15th. That's Karakov that you see, and his swanky man cave that seems to continue to get even more and more impressive. After that, you've got Mark Kalin with us once again with his wonderful qualifying into 6th place. And then Bradley Holly giving us a perspective from the second row here today in his traditional lucky shirts. Those are our 3 drivers on camera. We'll see how they fare as we just about have everybody on the grid already. So quick to line up most of our runners here today. This should be a fun one with the slipstream keeping things close, but a technical track that really tests the driver's skills. So who can maybe use that to shake those behind them and keep from being run down each and every time they come back to the timing line. We're waiting on Lindsay and Adams Jr. Looks like Christian Smith is not out there yet. And then Cervantes, who mysteriously is having trouble here today in qualifying as well. Usually you see him much higher up the field as well. Lindsay puts it onto that front row. I'm sure he'd love to get that second win. Will he have a repeat of that fight with Bradley Holly that we saw last time out down in Florida, where it came down to the last lap with only a 1/10 of a second between them at the line? Looks like Otis is now on the grid. And Del Busto and Cervantes still not out there for some reason, the 86 and the 25. But they're not going to get there in time. The lights are up and the green flag is out. It was a very bad start there for 5th place. And that is Adams Jr. for some reason cannot get off the line, just plunging down the order up in front of it all. Bergquist is able to start to pull away, and instead Bradley Holly is going to take second from Lindsay, who could not hold him back. Ryan King's taking a poke down into the southern loop, but he's on the outside, usually not the place you want to be, and he's going to have to settle back into 4th.
Yeah, and it's good that he's able to control the car there. That corner actually crests away from you, so as you start to get to the outside, it gets a lot slipperier. But we've got side by side here, Bradley Holly and Giancarlo Lenzi. That battle continuing on as they make their way into Honda.
What a rivalry this has become between those two, breaking hard down into Honda. Looks like Lindsay can't get back around him. Kalin up to 5th with Gonzalez now ahead of Adams Jr. instead. And then behind them, you can see the battle between Cabana and Povin goes clear around the outside into Siberia.
That is a gutsy move to be able to do, but you can carry a lot of speed around the outside there if you're careful. The 91, now Christian Liziak trying to take a little bit of a look at Cabana as they work their way up through turn 7 and up through Hayshed.
But look at the leaders. Holly was all over the bumper of Kevin Bergquist. Didn't make the move. It's hard to pass here into Lukey Heights, so I don't blame him for backing out, but certainly seems to have the speed. But they're bringing along a lot of friends, and this is where it all starts to kick off, as it looks like that is Foster and Smith off track there. So, whoa, and already to the lead as we come back. Holly didn't even need the front stretch.
He just muscled Kevin Bergquist out of the way, coming through Swan there, and he's going to bring Giancarlo Lenzi along with him. I'm not sure if that's a little bit of a bump draft. I think it is. As they go down the front stretch, Joe, they are pushing.
Lindsay's taken a page from Holly's book, but Kings wants the lead, and Kings is going to take the lead. He gets a 2-for-1. Lindsay gets underneath Holly as well, and he might be able to take second place back away from him. But no, it looks like Bradley's going to hold tough, and things have completely swapped around. I don't think anybody except for Kalin are the same in the top 5.
I don't think they are either, and something tells me we're not done yet as we've got Andrew Venaro off in the back there, but we've got side-by-side up for the lead. Ryan King's trying to make a little bit of a move here on Bradley Holly. They go down into the corner. Giancarlo Lenzi just watching who's going to be able to outbreak who coming out of Honda.
They are just full of vigor today out there, and Holly's going to have the inside as they switch back into Siberia. Usually hard to pass around the outside on that one. Kings discovers that very fact. Lindsay now rocks up behind him. Kalin into 4th. Bergquist from the lead of this race at the start down to 5th for some reason on lap 2.
Yeah, that's very surprising, and Ryan King's showing the flashes here of what we've come to expect from him. Very, very aggressive driving, but that's Mark Kalin poking his nose up through Lukey Heights. You normally don't see that.
And I don't think we've seen Mark Kalin take a win in the MX-5s yet. This would be something incredible if he now joins the fray and manages to steal the W. They're going to reach the front stretch once again, and Lindsay does not like being put back here. He's going to get that third place right back from Mark.
Yes, he is. A little bit of elbows out there from Giancarlo Lenzi, but Kalen's going to get the benefit of the draft here. You can see him just slowly stalking behind. That's going to be Ryan Kings poking to the outside of Bradley Holly, and that's going to be Kalen trying to pick up the draft from Kings.
Kings has got the inside down into doing. Holly suddenly finds Lindsay back in there once again. Oh, and they all kind of fan out. Lindsay's off into the grass, and now he is fully sliding down into the kitty litter. Can he get it woed up? He's all the way out there, and he's going to avoid the barrier, but from second place down to 14th in one turn.
Oh, and that is absolute heartbreak. And there's your pole sitter trying to fight back a little bit there. There's Kevin Berquist looking down to the inside of Honda. Is up front. Bradley Holly barely able to hold on to that lead.
Oh, smoking the tires through there, just barely keeping grip through that right-hand hairpin. So your order is Holly, Kings, Berquist, Kalin, and now Gonzalez rounds out your top 5. This has been one of the most frantic starts to any of the races we have seen all season. And as far as the winners list that I mentioned earlier, we've only had one repeat winner here, and we're into round 7. That's Odise Adams Jr. Otherwise, it has been fairly spread out.
Yeah, indeed it has, Joe, as we've got a little bit more action in the back. Speaking of Odise Adams Jr., there he is in 5th, trying to move his way forward. He's been able to get by his teammate, and he's got his eyes set. Whoa, that was a big move by Povin.
I don't think he meant to make that move, but great heads up by Gonzalez. He pulled out of the way in time and still made the corner, and Povin lost both the spots back anyways. Kelly Greenhoe up to 7th already, so wanting to try and catch up the leaders, but about 3 seconds back from the top spot currently. So Kelly's going to have to start making some more overtakes if he hopes to try and battle for that win. Meanwhile, we're going to go side by side for the lead once again down into Dewan, and Kings goes through. Holly now instead finds Kalin down to his inside. It was Lindsay the first 2 laps, but looks like he is going to be able to rebuff him as well as Berquist gets himself underneath Mark.
Yeah, and Kalin really wanted to bring that car down to the inside line, but unfortunately there, he found Berquist down to the inside, and that gave Berquist a little bit of an advantage. Now as they work their way through Stoner, Berquist is going to have a nose ahead.
Adams Jr. trying to get involved, but can't quite find the positioning. A little bit deep there for our leader, Ryan Kings. Holly's going to try and capitalize on that, but he's once again going to be on the wrong side. And then Berquist and Kalin still carry it on, but man, Kalin did a good job coming from the long way around to shut the door.
Yeah, he certainly did. That is a fantastic block as he was able to do it, but Holly not looking like he is to be deterred here. We jump back a little bit in the field. This is Kelly Greenhoe, as you said, on a really good charge.
Yeah, still in that 7th spot, but now has the tow from Gonzalez and Adams Jr. In fact, I don't think anybody's really been able to pull away here. It's remained draft locked in and amongst, let's see, how far back does this go? I think you can say all the way back to Jimmy Richards in 12th place, essentially.
Yeah, indeed. This is very much the definition of a draft train here, Joe. Everybody working their way around. There you see Ryan Kings trying to get a little bit of defensive, trying to go down to the inside there, break the draft if he can.
Holly, instead of passing, decides to try and bump draft up to him. Kalin catches up, but doesn't make the move behind them. Berquist quick into Dewan, and a little bit wide off the corner for Ryan Kings. Almost opened the door, but Holly was not close enough. Oh, but he's going to have to keep Mark Kalin from managing to get his foot inside, which he does. Now, who goes for the pass down into Honda this time?
That's going to be the question. It looks like Bradley Holly's certainly thinking about it, but he's going to have to go the long way around. Unfortunately, not going to make it easy as Ryan Kings.
Can't quite make it from there. Just feeds him out very easily. So are things settling in a little bit for once? Not seeing nearly as many 2x2 situations. Wide off of Siberia and somehow still keeps the speed. I thought for sure Ryan Kings was suddenly going to be plummeting down the order.
I thought he was as well, but he was definitely able to hold on to that car against all odds. Holly having a little bit of a look here, coming around Lukey Heights, maybe looking for an over-under.
And he is able to get himself off to the left-hand side. Defensive move from Ryan Kings into MG. That'll prevent Bradley Holly from trying anything tricky, or will it? He cuts back once again, but he's still on the wrong side of the track. Through the penultimate turn, down into Swan. He's going to start picking up speed now. And will he once again bump draft? And also, will they have another party involved with Kalen?
They may indeed. A little bit of side-by-side there in the back. I believe that's Kelly Greenhoe trying to put his way forward on Povin. Oh, they are fanning out down the main straightaway.
And it looks like this time Holly's getting some help from Kalen, as Kings does not get the bump from Bradley Holly. The outside of Doohan becomes the inside of the southern loop, and he's got the lead.
Does indeed, able to hold on to it and get it to go, and that is going to be Ryan Kings forced out a little bit wide there. Mark Kalen poking his nose in there.
Side by side, Ryan Kings is not done with it, and look out behind them, because I think Bergquist is a little bit hungry to try and get back up to the front himself. Looks like Greenhoe's going to make a move back in the back, but Kings, has he finally got Kalen? No, Kalen hangs tough.
Wow, these drivers really putting through the loops as, oh my goodness gracious, Kalen and Kings continue to go side by side through Siberia. I think that's Kelly Greenhoe there also trying to work his way on Odisse Adams Jr. Everything firing off here, Joe.
Kings has a little bit more momentum. Is he going to be clear? Yep, he is clear now. So Kalen might have to give that one up. He could try and send a dive, and no, he does not, into Lukey Heights. So Greenhoe was not able to overtake Adams Jr. in that. Oh, as they break down into MG. However, Gonzalez is suddenly having trouble. He's dropped behind Povin. Oh, Povin making a little bit of contact now with Greenhoe as well.
Yeah, a little bit of door banging here, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more of that starting to fire off here, Joe. I think drivers' tempers are going to get a little high.
By the way, remember we mentioned that Lindsay fell to 14th. He's gotten back to 12th and is trying to, one by one, pick him up once again. There you can see him in the orange and blue. But it looks like this is going to be difficult going for him, since it's taken him a bit just to get those two positions, and some battling in front of him as well. That actually might help out. That is Lysiak and Karakov goes wide.
Yeah, Karakov going to be forced out a little bit there, and Giancarlo able to keep his way back up through the field. It's a good recovery to be back up in 11th, I've got to say, but he has got a lot of work to do to get back up to these leaders.
Let's check out Brett's man cave cam, since we've got him hooked up here today, as he forces Lindsay to go a little bit defensive, or is that an attack? As Lindsay makes some contact in front of him with Lysiak, and that's going to allow Brett a chance to try and come back at him.
Yes, it will. Karakov trying to fight a little bit there through Siberia. It's hard to carry corner speed around there on the outside, but you can do it. Single file here, working through 7 and up into Hayshed.
They stay nose to tail. In fact, they're still nose to tail pretty far down the field. This is the slipstream has caught up even past 14th, where I mentioned before. This might really be the entire pack just about. I think it finally ends itself around, Larson in 15th now. So it did only gain 1. The rest of them have dropped off. They're going to stay in order, but I don't think they're going to stay in this order down the front stretch.
I don't think they are. The draft just a little bit too strong around here. Gio looking like he's got a really good run there coming off of Swan. And again, everybody weaving this way and that. Here comes Ryan Kings on an attack for the lead.
Monkey see, monkey do. If Holly can do that, Ryan Kings can as well. and he is going to easily overtake him. But the cut back from Bradley Holly allows him to at least get side by side. Can he actually do this? No, I was going to say he was hanging there for a little bit. He wants the over-under once again, but his momentum is interrupted, and now Kevin Bergquist is nearly touching that rear bumper of the 184.
Yes, he is. Bergquist, your pole sitter, on a little bit of a redemptive drive here, trying to come back up, but he's not going to find any way forward. As that's going to be Ryan Kings, and that's Holly off.
Oh, and that checks everybody up, and more contact in and amongst them. Mark Kalin, unfortunately, getting it from both sides from Adams Jr. and Greenhoe, and that's going to send him a little bit wide. Greenhoe gets shoved out as well as Povin might get two up through Siberia.
He may indeed. Let's see how this shakes out. Coming up through this sequence of corners is not where you want to be too wide. A lot of lateral motion in these cars. You've got to be careful here, boys.
Povin falls back a little bit, and Kalen's going to be able to retain fourth. This lost them a bunch of ground to Bergquist and Kings. And as for Holly, he wound up in 10th after that. In fact, he's behind Giancarlo Lenzi after his off. And oh my goodness, this is, and it starts to erupt, and it's right in front of Holly. He gets turned around and sent off. And I think that's with Michael Chase as well. And then another car, Kelly Greenhoe, is off to the inside of the track. That's three drivers that were compromised by that one. Greenhoe is going to pit immediately.
I think that's a good call there for Kelly Greenhoe. Just see if he can get any damage repaired to the car. But absolute heartbreak for a lot of the title contenders here. This is why, Joe, you don't want to be in the middle of the field. You want to be up front. Those incidents can happen, and you've just got nowhere to go, and you get involved in it.
The action kept building and building. Eventually, it had to come to a head. And that allows Kings the lead with Bergquist chasing. So here is what happened. I think with Chase, we're going to be watching here.
Yeah, looked like Chase tried to go down to the inside there of Kelly Greenhoe. And unfortunately for Chase, I've got to say that door was always going to shut. That was never going to stay open there for the 34.
I mean, there were so many things happening in that moment. And he was probably more focused with battling with, I think that was Gonzalez there in front of him. And everybody around them suffered the consequences of the move. So let's see, what does this do to the championship, actually? Because, so Bradley Holly's towards the back now. Cervantes started towards the back. Where the heck is Cervantes? Wait, did he take the start?
No, he didn't. He is a DNS here today, Joe.
Oh, that was strange. As we get a little bit more side by side here. This is coming down into MG once again. And that is Karakov and Lisiak. That's for 9th place. It looks like Christian will be able to take the position.
Indeed, he will. Yep, able to get that 91 right up ahead and around.
And Jose Gonzalez is pitting in. Now, I think Gonzalez and Odis Adams Jr. are the ones that are best positioned to take advantage of all the chaos that is happening with this field here today, as it looks like Bergquist, after an incredible journey down and back, he has found himself up at the point once again. But boy, does he have a story to tell from that one.
Yeah, he certainly does. Great camera angle there coming through the southern loop by Dougie Beard. As you can see, this battle now, Bergquist and Kings really working their way through here. Is Kings going to have a little bit of a look going down into Honda? I think he might.
Just about gets it, but no dice. Bergquist really wants to hold on to this one. And Kevin is one that hasn't won yet, so he's going to be a new winner if he can retain this spot. As for Ryan Kings, he has won already this season back in the 3rd round. And then Odis Adams Jr., as I mentioned, the only one to have won twice, trying to make it 3, as he's not that far behind this duo.
No, and he's certainly crucially within draft range, which is really, really what you want to be in there. Another big look from Ryan Kings, carrying that sort of trademark aggression, but that cost him some time. Look how much Odis Adams Jr. was able to catch up.
And then in the background, you could see Povin making a pass on Kalen. Guillaume has been full of spice today. He has gone up 5 positions, and it looks like Kalen then dives off behind him into pit lane. So a few drivers figuring might as well get out of this mess, pit a lap early. And then the background, Lindsay is back up into 5th.
Well, would you look at that? Now, obviously, some of these top drivers taken out by incident. Obviously, other drivers coming into pit lane, but that is a good run for Lindsay. And if he's able to attach himself to the back of this battle, that is going to be crucial for him.
Kings just retook the lead, as you saw on screen, over Bergquist. Adams with the slipstream is finally right there with them. He is no longer hovering in the background. He is in and amongst this fight. Can they also find Guillaume Povin in that 649 car suddenly getting involved as well? But we're probably expecting most of them to be pitting, if not this lap, the next one for sure.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. This is a relatively high fuel burn circuit. You are on the throttle for a lot of this lap. There are some fast sweepers you can get a little bit of feathering in, but for the most part, you are on max throttle through a lot of this. Not seeing a lot of attacks here from these leading, this leading quartet. They're spacing themselves out just a little bit.
As for those who have pitted, Mark Kalen currently is the highest driver to have taken his stop. He's down in 10th, and he's in clear air, but that could mean that he's also not got the slipstream to help him get a little bit of pace. Although the way they've been fighting back and forth, I don't think the slipstream counts for as much with how much side-by-side action there's been.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, we've got a car off in the back.
That's Kalen. That's Kalen, who just went off in Honda. Well, that will certainly hurt whatever advantage he was hoping to pull. Speaking of pulling an advantage, Adams Jr. is in. Lindsay is in.
All right, but Kings, Bergquist, and Povin all staying out here. So differing fuel strategies starting to come into play. Who's going to be able to get the overcut? Who's going to make the undercut work? Now remember, no tire changes, so that's not a part of it. You've just got to maximize these in and out laps.
Doesn't make the pass this time. Whoa, he's way outside on that corner. That was strange. Not sure why Kevin did that. Lost him a little bit of time, frankly.
Yeah, indeed it did. I'm not really sure. I mean, Kevin is a good driver, a solid driver. He's not one to take an aggressive line. That may have just been a little bit of a miscalculation, I think.
Oh, Lindsay had a very long stop here. 18 seconds. Adams Jr. is way ahead of him now after that one. So Lindsay's going to lose a little bit of time. And Kalen's off actually puts him behind Lindsay because of that. So we continue to watch their top 3 who still have not pitted. Kings, Bergquist, Povin. Del Busto is a long ways behind. He's down in 4th, but he still needs to stop. He's battling with Simon Doyle. And then Venaro is the only other one that needs fuel in this race.
Exactly, and so these leaders really starting to break away, hoping that that draft is going to help them out a little bit to be able to keep themselves going on and forward. Let's see who decides to pit in, though. That's the 62 getting out of the way. This is farther back in the field.
Yeah, that's Mark Kalen in a battle with Gonzalez. This is for 9th place right now, but both of them have taken their stops. Ahead, you can see Giancarlo Lenzi. He's the second highest of those who have stopped. It is Odis Adams Jr. who inherited that strategic position in the 22 car in front of them as our top 3 pit in now. This is going to be critical to the outcome of the race.
Yeah, exactly. Who's going to be able to come in here? Who's going to be able to get this done the quickest? Now, we've been seeing pit stop times around, let's call it 16 seconds. That's about a good mark here. If you're able to come out under that, you're super quick. Let's see what these 3 do.
Worth noting that Kalen had a 14-second stop, so I wonder if he's going to be short on fuel. And back out. Whoa, Povin, 10 seconds. There's no way he made enough fuel in there. There's absolutely no way.
That has got to be a super short stop. Bergquist looks like he had a pretty long one at 22 seconds. Same with Ryan Kings. Very, very long stop for those two.
Wide amount of variety here for the pit stops. This is going to put Povin in the lead, but I can't imagine he can make it to the finish. Adams Jr. is the one that is ahead of everybody, and Lindsay is back into a legitimate 3rd.
Well, there you go, Joe. When you've got pace, you've got pace. Giancarlo Lenzi up into third. Now, he is going to have Ryan Kings to deal with from behind, and he's got about 4 seconds to try to gain back in on Otis Adams Jr., but it is still a fantastic run.
So I'm looking at the order here, because Lenzi's probably going to find the slipstream drawing in everybody behind them. That includes Kings, Gonzalez, Kalin, and Bergquist, and that's going to be a nightmare. I'm not sure if he'll be able to stay on the podium if he's got that many drivers fighting with him. In fact, if he goes off like that, it'll hand one of them over just like that.
Yeah, indeed. That is going to be Ryan Kings down to his inside. Lenzi trying to go defensive. Barely holds off Jose Gonzalez as he comes up behind, but Gonzalez not to be deterred there. I think he might have it. They're going to be side by side coming up through Hayshed. Lenzi fends him off.
Wow, that was brave from Gonzalez. He had to try it, but it didn't work out. So Lenzi down into fourth, Kings up into third. We think, though, this will be for second place, as long as Adams Jr. has enough fuel to get to the end.
Hoven's back in pit lane.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, that just seemed completely unrealistic there. So now we get a better shakeout of how things are. But Adams Jr.'s gap is about 4.7 seconds right now.
Yeah, and I gotta think, whoa, as Giancarlo Lenzi takes a little bit of a trip off into the grass, he's gonna muscle his way by Ryan Kings as Jose Gonzalez tries to fight around the outside there, Joe.
And that's going to put Lenzi into second, Kings third, Gonzalez into fourth. Galen going a little bit wide down into the southern loop. He eventually gathers it back up. And then Bergquist still sitting back in the sixth position. Where did Holly go? Holly is, oh my goodness, Holly's in a whole gaggle of cars, and he's in 11th. This is unfortunately unfolded for him.
Yeah, it's really not great. He is going to have to try to claw back some points here. He's going to take a look down to the inside of Simon Doyle. He's got to be a little bit careful. The 13 of Jason Larson up ahead of him. That's going to prevent him from breaking super deep. And indeed, there you go, looking for a little bit of the crossover. Woo, that was the 13 getting squirrely off a Honda and another car off in the back.
We heard Holly say last time out how consistency is really what he's been going for. And I'm double checking. I think the worst he's had is a third. I'm double checking on that. I have to try and dig through the stats here, but man, if that's the case, that's incredible. Oh no, contact, big contact between Gonzalez and Kalin just now. Amazingly, neither of them went around, but that was an absolute smash into MG between the pair of them.
And look what it's allowed to have happen. Kevin Bergquist back into the equation here. He is all over on the back now of Gonzalez.
So he's going to give a little bit of a bump draft. He's hoping maybe they can get away, I guess, from Gonzalez here. And it seems to be working fairly well. And I can confirm Bradley Holly has not finished off the podium yet this season. That is unbelievable. He did not start for round 2, and that is the only race where he didn't score points.
Now, he will have the added benefit of the drop weeks that the Precision Racing League does put into their schedule, but still, you don't want to have to rely on that, because if he's got another bad race, that is just a plummet down the order.
Well, this one might count as that bad race, frankly. Where is he now? He's up to 10th, so he's been getting a few since we last looked, and Povin is having to visit pit lane another time because he got a black flag, I assume, for speeding. And that will just add to his misery here today. So back to the battle for second place. Lenzi does it again and just skitters off into the grass. This time, though, doesn't lose nearly as much time, but I think he's still going to lose second to Kings.
Yeah, Ryan looking very aggressive there. It's going to switch back to him as they come up Lukey Heights. Got to be a little bit careful. Battle in the back there between Cervantes and, Kalin and Bergquist. But they're going to be side by side into MG. This could get hairy, Joe.
It's not often you see drivers actually manage to get side by side into there, but it just doesn't work for Ryan, as GL is going to be able to retain that second place. They continue to drop 10th by 10th to Otis Adams Jr. with all this side by side racing. The 22 just basically has an open goal in front of him.
Yeah, really and truly does. I mean, a 5-second gap here at this point with 7.5 minutes to go in this race. He has just got to focus on hitting his apexes and not making a mistake. That's easier said than done at Phillip Island, let's be real.
You got to remember, these are pretty long laps here. It's only almost 1:50 to try and circulate around. So they're going to find themselves running out of laps pretty quickly in these last 7 minutes. Ooh, that's very wide for GL, and Kings knows it. He's going to see if he can do anything with it, but can't get the speed. He goes back into the slipstream.
He's going to go back into the slipstream here. I have to think he's going to be trying to lining up for Honda. Little slight move to the inside. There it is. Carry momentum around the outside. That's exactly how you want to do it. Now dive later on the brakes. Ryan Kings with a great move.
That puts him back into second. GL's going to look around the right-hand side. I don't think he's got the overlap he needs. No. He'll back out, try to late apex the corner, which he does. Is that a spin of the wheels? Oh, and they bang doors. Lindsay goes the long way around, and he's going to get that spot away potentially. Kings tries to fight back, but eventually he fades.
He fades back, and look at this. This is just bringing Jose Gonzalez farther and farther into this equation. He is right on the back of him now.
Incredibly, in all of this, they've dropped Kalen and Bergquist by quite a bit. I'm not sure what's costing them. And, oh, Kings went back through down into MG. How did he do that?
I have no earthly idea, Joe. I didn't think you could make that move, but Lindsay going to try to carry some speed around the outside. Maybe tuck up behind here in the draft if he can carry that momentum. Yep, that's exactly what he's trying to do.
He's going to have a great pull, and he's going to use it. He's not going to bump draft this time, and he's bringing along Gonzalez as well. You know, usually in this series with the slipstream of these cars, we often talk about fuel saving, about strategy, waiting for the last lap. I don't think there's any of that here today. These guys are grinning ear to ear, having fun.
Oh, this is exactly what you want to be doing when you sign up for an iRacing league. Good, respectful, clean battling, side by side, flag to flag. It's absolutely fantastic.
Man, beautiful exit from Giancarlo. Ryan now sees Gonzalez to his inside, but that's going to switch back to the outside once they reach Honda. It'll depend on how far up the side of him Ryan is and how deep he is on the brakes. The answer is very deep. Can he make the corner is the question, and yes, he can.
Ryan Kings with that textbook aggressiveness that we love to see out of him, really making that stick. Now he has got to try to get back up to GL. Lindsay there taking a later apex into Siberia. That's going to allow to carry momentum. He doesn't run wide that time. And oh, Bradley Holly having it off through Honda.
For the second time in this race, he was trying to make a pass on some cars in front of him. That sends him back down to 13th. This has been easily the worst race he's had all season. Unless something catastrophic happens in front of him, at best, we might see a top 10 from him. Nothing more.
Yeah, this is going to be a rough pill to swallow there for Ryan Kings. Or not for Ryan Kings, for Bradley Holly. It is going to be very, very difficult. In 13th, we are not used to seeing that 184 that far down.
And uncharacteristic mistakes from him as well. Not sure what's going on with him today, but just doesn't seem to be on his game, as both times I'm pretty certain they've been his own doing down into that Honda hairpin. There's Adams, and there is your battle for second. Lindsay once again leading the way. Kings, who gets a great tow, doesn't actually take it. He just sits behind this time, trying to pull back up. Gonzalez is now dropped off of them for some reason, and down into the southern loop. Will we see him catch up here?
Well, let's see. Tries to carry a little bit speed. I think he had to check himself slightly there at the exit. May have had to carry, maybe had to check himself up, just carrying a little bit too much speed. That gap is now holding at about 0.6 of a second. He has got to try to close in here a little bit more. He's going to try to do it by being later on the brakes. That's going to gain him about 1/10, but can he maximize at exit?
Just occurred to me as well. We could see this group of 5 essentially all battling for second. Down to 6th place, and behind them it is a massive gap. It is 10 seconds down to Kelly Greenhoe. They have all split apart into what has become basically 2 rather large groups.
Yeah, it's sort of forming off into their own draft trains here is what it is, Joe. And we normally don't think of Phillip Island as that drafty of a circuit, but the long Gardner Straight really and truly does give you a mega tow.
Yeah, and these MX-5s are known for really using the slipstream pretty effectively and not being affected in the corners either, having to watch out for the buffeting. It's all down to the straightaways. And the straightaway approaches for GL once again. Kings really wants to try and get that second place away. Is he going to bump him, or is he going to just go on around? He's going to go around.
He's going to try to go around. 2 to go here at the line. Car around in the back. I think that's Daniel Del Busto, but we've got to check back here on this battle for P2. Kings trying to make it work around the outside. Lindsay sliding a little bit as they come down into the southern loop.
Oh, and Lindsay's going to be on the outside. This is probably going to have to go to Kings eventually, and it does. Gonzalez is going to take advantage of it, but can't keep the speed up. And that was Simon Doyle that spun a little bit earlier with some side-to-side contact. Hopefully we don't get side-to-side contact here as they get close, leave each other space down into the braking. Lindsay gets fed out again.
Yeah, just losing out there a little bit, trying to go for the crossback. He's going to go for a little bit around the outside of Siberia here, see if he can carry that momentum, but he has got to watch out for Gonzalez, able to poke his nose up to the inside. Oh, and there is Kings making the mistake that we had seen Lindsay make earlier.
Great move from the 0-2. He's going to get back into second. Gonzalez through, and behind them, Kalen seems to have lost the draft as he went wide off into the grass down through Siberia. Bergquist desperately hoping he can hold on and keep it a 4-car fight. As you can see back there in the purple machine, and there was Kalen flashing in the white car in the background. But out of MG, it's going to start all over again as the white flag is going to be given to Odise Adams Jr. this time by.
It is indeed, and I've got to say here for Ryan Kings, he looks like he lost a little bit coming out of MG. The gap now holding at about 3.5 tenths of a second. That's going to be a lot to try to make up here. The draft is strong, but he is going to have to be booking it.
So Adams Jr. still at 5 seconds ahead of these guys. Lindsay, Kings, Gonzalez, and Bergquist. Kings wants the left-hand side, and that might actually be a very savvy move. If he can keep the inside down to the southern loop, he'll have that second place away, and Lindsay can do nothing about it. Wow, great stuff from the 43.
Just a perfect move, but now here's when Lindsay's going to be able to have the attack. He's going to go down to the inside. That's going to give him the outside line coming through Honda. He's going to have to be later on the binders, but as they work their way through Stoner, it's going to be his advantage.
To the inside, Kings has the desired line, and he's going to take the position away. In front of them, is there a fuel problem for Adams Jr.? He's lost a good chunk of time, but this battle rages on. Oh no, and that shoves Lindsay off the track. That's him out of this as well.
Oh no, and then there were 3, Joe. Ryan Kings, Jose Gonzalez, and Kevin Bergquist now duking this out for the final podium positions.
When something happened to Kalen, he goes way down the order. He falls all the way to 13th. Lindsay will be 5th from here, it looks like. And who will take second, who will take third, and who will be off the podium? It's going to be amongst these 3 that you see on screen. And this exit will mean everything as to who finishes where. How do you position your car on the way to the line? If you are Odise Adams Jr., you simply cruise to the finish. Out at the front with the quickest pit stop in and amongst the top group, Odise Adams Jr. takes his 3rd win of the season. Behind him, Gonzalez is barely ahead of Kings. Kings is starting to come up on him, but they cross the line, and it's gonna be Gonzalez in second. Kings takes 3rd.
By 9 thousandths of a second, Joe. A fantastic run there for Jose Gonzalez to snatch that away, up 5 positions on the day.
Lindsay will get 5th, 13 gained. No, make that 10 gained. No, 13 gained, excuse me, for Jason Larson in 7th place. Holly only 9th amongst them, and the rest eventually across the line as well. Wow, that was one of the greatest races in this season, and we've seen some incredible finishes here, but that one just was adrenaline throughout. So your winner was Odise Adams Jr., who kind of really dominated in the final stint, which really didn't give you an idea of what the rest of the race was like. But behind him, Gonzalez just barely eking out over Ryan Kings for second place. Kings was third, and then Bergquist was fourth. Giancarlo Lenzi edged out of the way and settling for fifth. Jimmy Richards was sixth, and as I mentioned, Larson up 13 for a seventh place. Daniel Del Busto was P8, and ninth it was Bradley Holly, and Andrew Venaro was 10th.
In 11th, it was Michael Chase, followed by Brett Karakov with Ian Cabana and Christian Lysiak behind them. Kelly Greenhill only good enough for 15th on the day. Austin Bartlett Chase and Simon Doyle finishing behind them. Mark Kalin sadly a lap down, as was Christian Smith, and Guillaume Hoven a DNF here on the day, as were Malcolm Foster and Danny Cervantes a DNS.
That's going to take us to our winner for this round, Odise Adams Jr., who certainly brings himself back to the fore in the championship with this win. Adams, it's your third win of the season. You're the only driver still to have taken multiple wins, but obviously it's you had a little bit of a lull there in the second and third round. Do you feel like you're back in it now?
Yeah, for sure. Last race I got taken out. There's a few where I had some racing incidents where I just lost out. So, I was like, even for the last few races, I'm just trying to get to the end, at least get to the pit stop, and survive. And then some mistakes on my part, some mistakes I think on other people. But just glad to keep it together and then push there to the end.
Well, and Holly's been so consistent. This was really finally a bogey round for him, which will help you start to catch him. Do you feel like the championship is still potentially on?
Yeah, I got to look at the points. I mean, the way it was going, I mean, he is just getting, podiums every single race. I'm either, first, second, or almost last. So I figured unless he gets at least one, bad finish, probably two or three, I don't really have a whole lot of a chance. But at least my hashtag not a teammates, we're doing well on the team side.
You definitely are, and it was a good one for you two today with a 1-2. It was 25 points coming into this round that Holly had on you, but he finished down in ninth today, so he's going to take a hit for sure. Coming up next round, we head off to Brands Hatch, which is going to be a track that doesn't have as much of a slipstream there. Can you make it back to back?
Yeah, that's one of those tracks I like a lot, but I either do well or wreck. So hopefully I do the do well part. But we'll see.
All right. Well, congratulations on the win, sir, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again come England in a week's time.
Yeah, thank you. And if I can thank anybody, definitely my hashtag not a teammates and our affiliate Team Watson Racing. The setup was great. Every tweak I try to it makes it worse. So it's great when I don't have to spend a lot of times on setups. And thank you guys for the great broadcast, and Brandon Holly, all the other guys over at PRL that put this together for us.
That was Odise Adams Jr. in the 22 who took the victory today. DJ's caught up with Ryan Kings, who was third.
Indeed, Ryan, that looked like a heck of a battle from the drop of the green flag on. You have got to be grinning after a fight like that.
Oh, yes, it was really fun. Really good battle between myself and Lindsay and Holly for a while as well. So I'm glad everyone kept it clean for the most part.
Well, keeping it clean, keeping it like that. I mean, that battle with GL in particular, talk me through your mindset there as you were going